Hello, this is Greg Allison with Bring Greg's Garden and Worm Farm. And tonight we're going to talk about the possibility that Putin might ponder a first strike on the United States of America. Would he really do that? I'm going to submit to you the answer to is yes, he would consider this. And we're going to talk about why. So let's get into this presentation. This, what you see before you hear, is a map that was put out on Russian TV about targets in the United States. This map depicts submarines and where they could strike with hypersonic missiles that Russia has now designed for submarine launch that could reach targets within 5 minutes. 5 minutes, think about that, guys. What is 5 minutes? In 5 minutes, do you think that the emergency warning system can identify, see what's coming, identify it, recognize it, activate, and get the word to you in 5 minutes? Or you can be sitting in your office and suddenly, boom, boom, boom. And even if they notified you the second these missiles come out of the water, which they really can't do that, but if they could, and you had 5 minutes, are you going to be able to make it to the basement in the building where you work? Are you going to be able to make it to the inner core of the building where you work? Are you going to be able to make it to your car, which was the last place you ought to be if a nuclear device hits, or to a ditch or a culvert in 5 minutes? If you knew it was coming, could you make it in 5 minutes? I can't get to my car from my parking lot where I work in 5 minutes. So can you do that? Something to think about. Can you be prepared? And if this stuff hits, are you prepared at home? So let's kind of go through this. This is the actual target map. These are the targets that they're talking about hitting. And you can see it's heavily based on where nuclear missiles are located. Those are the heavy targets and the heavy population centers and the military bases. These are all primary targets, industrial centers. This is the target map. This is no joke. This is heavy population areas. This is most of the United States. This is for a direct missile strike. But again, they might decide to have another strategy entirely. They may not even decide to hit these areas. They may concentrate all this stuff in here. I'm going to show you why in a moment. So, hey, something to think about. With all these bad times that could come upon us, you really need to be prepared. And now my channel is all about principally growing food, preparation, survival, and on my EMP video, which you can click the link on that below, and I'll put a stripe up here where you can click on. I talk about how you need to be prepared for more than 6 months. Actually, with some of the things that's coming at us, such as grand solar minimum and some of the other problems we may face, what happens if Yellowstone goes off? You're not going to be able to grow food and have things that you can eat for maybe 7 years. You are going to need to store food, but you're also going to need to be able to grow your own food. And so I cover that. And also my Patriot Supply has great links to supplies that you can get for prepping, for survival. You can get seeds. You can get GMO, non-GMO seeds, organic heirloom seeds, which are good, that you can plant, and you can replant the seeds from the plants from them, not like hybrid seeds. Hybrid seeds, you plant them, you replant the seeds, you don't know what you get. But with heirloom seeds, you get good seed each time. So my Patriot Supply has good links to great food. Check them out, and you're going to want to look at this after you see what I got to show. Guys, this is a meme going around the internet, kind of a tongue-in-cheek. Says, hey, Putin, Russia wants war because look how close Russia's put their country to all our military bases. Ha, ha, ha. Well, the thing is, we've surrounded the bear. That's what we've done. We put them in a corner. And that's not enough for us. You know, when we established the wall falling with Gorbachev, when Glasnost and all this stuff happened, and communism started collapsing, we promised these guys, we said, hey, look, Russia, we're not going to move 1 inch closer to you than where we are today. And yet we went in and put in NATO, Poland, and a lot of the Baltic republics, and we moved our bases in. We did to them what we said we weren't going to do. We've circled in tighter, and that makes them antsy. Right or wrong, I know a lot of people who hate Russia. I've been to Moscow. I'm going to tell you, anywhere you go, the people at the people level are pretty much the same. It's the countries, the organizations that stir people up and get them wanting to fight each other. But at the base level, people pretty much want the same thing. Somehow we got to be able to overcome this stuff with these governments and all these regimes and organizations and figure out how to deal with people to people, mano a mano. That would be the prospect for peace, but we're a long way from that right now. One of the things that we're telling Russia is, hey, you've taken Crimea from Ukraine, and we do not accept that. We won't rest until you give it back. And we're going to put sanctions on it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You have to give Ukraine back. Well, guess what? Ukraine did not have Crimea to start with. Crimea was given to Ukraine when Ukraine came into the Soviet Union because, Russia's, hey, we're all one big happy family. Look, what you can see is that Crimea was annexed by the Russian Empire in 19 April 1783. Hey, that was even before my time, guys. Crimea is the largest warm water base, naval base that the Russians have. The Russians are not going to give that up at all under any circumstances because that's the key element, one of the key triads of their entire defense posture. Most of their bases are on the Arctic Ocean and Baltic Sea and places where it's just frozen in by ice. Excuse me, the global warming has not freed that up. They're ice-bound bases for a good part of the year. And Russia really can't operate out of those places. So the key things where they have warm water bases are Crimea and Syria. Oh, gee, didn't we just try an regime overthrow in Syria? Aren't we pushing for that? You see why Russia went into Syria? They have a naval base in Syria. It's their only naval base on the Mediterranean Sea. So it's like we're picking on all their key capabilities, and they're not happy with it. That's why they've expanded into Venezuela. Oh, Venezuela, we're trying to overthrow the president there, aren't we? Didn't Russia send some Bear bombers down there recently and then fly them around the Gulf as a kind of a warning? They're not happy with that. And they're beginning to let us know about it. That's why they put out those target maps. So Russia has some capabilities that we better be aware of when we start poking the bear and pushing it in the corners. One of those is their Poseidon Tsunami Apocalypse torpedo. Ladies and gentlemen, this thing is huge. It's designed to be able to carry the Tsar Bomba, this thing right here. That's a 100 megaton device. They tested it at half scale, the largest nuclear explosion in the history, the largest detonation created by humans in all history was a half scale Tsar Bomba at 50 megatons. The full scale is a 100 megaton device. And we're going to show a little bit about that. Look, this Poseidon torpedo is a nuclear powered, not just a bomb, the power plant that drives it is a nuclear reactor. It can run almost infinitely until things break down. It can run for a long time. They don't run out of fuel. It's not running on diesel fuel, at least not in any short time. As long as the uranium fuel package lasts, that thing can run for a long, long time in the sea. And it's a drone. It runs and operates unmanned. That's scary to have a huge device such as a Tsar Bomba on a unmanned drone running around in the sea. This Tsar Bomba torpedo is really torpedo is a misnomer almost. It's a submarine, drone submarine, 6 foot in diameter and 65 foot long. It has to be carried. It can be carried to some destinations by a larger specially designed submarine, but then launched, and it can go anywhere. It's a scary device, and here's a picture of it right here. This is the one they actually tested. So this isn't just something on a drawing. They've actually tested this device in the water, and they are in the process of fielding it, getting ready to field it. They may have already fielded it. I don't know. Some of you may know this question. I'm sure there's going to be lots of comments, pro and con. Oh, they got them. They'll never have them. I get all these kind of comments every time I post anything. So what about the Tsar Bomba? Just how bad is the Tsar Bomba? They tested this thing when I was a year old, 30 October 1961, at 50 megatons. Again, designed for 100 megatons, but it was just too big to bring that whole thing to test at that time. It was such a big device, but it can fit in a submarine. There was a village. It had people living in it. Now, they never published a casualty list for this village. The village was 34 miles away. All the buildings in that village were wiped out. Wooden, brick, didn't matter, they were gone. And over 100 miles from ground zero, wooden houses were gone. Block houses, brick houses, had their roofs blown off, doors and windows blown in, 100 miles away. This is no trivial device. Communications were interrupted in northern Russia for an hour, and the explosion would cause third-degree burn 62 miles away. It broke windows in Norway and Finland, for Pete's sake. This thing has 1,570 times the combined explosive power of both the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombs. Imagine that, or 10 times more power than everything, all the conventional bombs, that is, that we dropped in all of World War II. What could you do with this? Imagine a tsunami, 1,500 foot tall, coming off one device that could inundate an entire continental shoreline. And I think most of their pictures depict a couple from the West Coast and one for the East Coast, mainly up in the megalopolis in the Northeast. Maybe one in the Gulf. One of these in the Gulf would send a wave all the way to Chicago, to the Great Lakes. It would take out Memphis, St. Louis, New Orleans, everything, all the way up to Chicago. The coast on the sides, well, you're lapping waves up to the Sierra Nevadas and pretty high up into the Appalachians. I mean, Florida, forget about it. Anything below the fall line in the southeast, forget about it. And probably up into the plateau over the fall line, maybe. You have inverse square law, so it will drop off, as this thing radiates out. But this could be a devastating weapon. I mean, really devastating. 2 or 3 of them could really destroy this country. You combine that with an EMP in the middle of the country, my gosh. So we're getting close to some serious strike capacity here. Most people think this is a retaliation weapon, and that's kind of how it was put out there for the Poseidon tsunami torpedo. But the Poseidon tsunami torpedo could actually be used as a first strike weapon, because you're not going to see this coming until it's too late. And by the time they've timed this thing to detonate, they could have missiles in the air on the way. I mean, you could be hit left and right. That's why they may not want to have a real need to nuke the East Coast, the West Coast, and the southern regions along the coastline, unless that's just a backup plan in case this device don't work, which that's more likely than not, if they should decide to do a first strike. This is where the Tsar Bomba was tested, way up here. And you can see way out here in Finland and Norway, their window's broken by that device. Imagine that. I mean, it was devastating. And Russia has another new weapon, the RS-28 Sarmat Satan II missile. This thing is a really bad boy. There it is flying. They have tested it. Guess what? 10-ton payload, 10 heavy MIRV. That's MIRV weapons. That's where you have multiple independent reentry vehicles. That's what MIRV stands for. Just all these little bombs can fly. And guess what? Now Russia has developed these as hypersonic vehicles that are highly maneuverable, that can fly around and evade defense systems. They can put in 15 lighter ones at the 350 kiloton range. Our little boy that we hit Hiroshima with was only 15 megatons. Think about that. They can put, that's the hypersonic glide vehicles here. They have countermeasures to defeat anti-missile defense systems. One of those is it's got a very short boost phase, which, it limits the time that we can track it, know where it's going. If we try to put space systems in space to attack them upon launch, we've got less time to react to it. And The scariest thing about this missile, it is so capable, instead of flying over the North Pole where our entire dew line is set up to look for Russian missiles, it can hit us in our soft underbelly. This thing can fly over Antarctica, come at us from over the South Pole in the Gulf of Mexico, where we ain't got nothing looking. There will be no warning until it goes boom. Literally. And let's just, you know, it would, you won't see it coming. We don't have radar looking to the south. It all is looking to the north because that's where we expect everything. Now, in time, we might build a new dew line. That's what we need to do. And maybe put some missile defense on our southern border. That should be called for. But there's a window that we will be very vulnerable because they're looking at bringing this thing online next year and the year after, having it totally operational. So some of these things will, within a year, possibly earlier, be online. They may have a sneak on us. They've already tested this thing. So this fractional orbital bombardment capability, which is the last bullet down here, that's where you fly over the South Pole, and that's where you just come over, and it may, in fact, you can watch satellites, and that's where that term comes from. So they're not making full orbit, or maybe they will. You have a nuke on it. You don't know that, and it comes over, and boom. Actually, South Korea has a capability from where they're at to launch over Antarctica and the South Pole, come up over our Gulf of Mexico with satellites. So, and who knows, they might have a device on there and they might be paid to initiate this whole thing. That's not, of course, that's conjecture, but it's a possibility. So really, why would Russia want to do something like this? Why would they dare consider doing that? It's because we're hemming them in. We're surrounding them. They feel boxed in, caged, cornered. Really? Oh, they're out doing all these bad things. They're just protecting their own interest. We're trying to take their key assets away from them in Crimea and in Syria. I mean, we've taken away a lot of their client vassal buffer states already, and then we turn around and turn them into NATO countries. And there was some attempt to turn Ukraine into a NATO country. That's still all over the place. We've staged coups. We've been very aggressive in advancing up to their borders. When the Soviet Union fell, the people and the government of the Soviets thought we would just come in like the White Knights and pick them up to help them dust off and become a new country. No, we sent our vulture capitalists in, the oil companies and the big banks and so forth, that picked the bones of the country and was basically robbing them dry. We were trying to take over everything. That's why Putin came to power, is he put a stop to that. The people were happy. So he was looking out for his people. Now, I'm not saying Putin's a great guy. Putin is who he is. He's, you know, a lot of these national leaders aren't to be trusted, especially when they're pointing nukes at us. But we've not done exactly a spectacular job of trying to make peace, which is what we should do. But we've got to defend ourselves. And I definitely say, hey, we need to watch our southern border. He's worried about all this missile defense we're putting around the country because he thinks that we could use this missile defense to initiate a first strike capability on him. And we've been rattling the sabers toward Russia. That's another thing that scares them. When Hillary Clinton was running for president, and I think even prior to that, she was saying, hey, we need to put a no-fly zone over Syria. And if the Russians fly their MiGs in this no-fly zone, she said she would shoot them down. Really? You would shoot down Russian MiGs? That might not, is Syria, this thing with Assad, is that worth a full-scale nuclear exchange? Yeah, then all these people you're protecting are going to be gone. We're going to be gone. They're going to be gone. You're going to turn everything into a cinder over what? Some little bitty thing? Waste everything? What right do we have to waste the entire planet over some little political ploy, some little gain that we're shooting for? Yeah, we should protect ourselves. I do believe in a strong defense. I believe that we've got some holes, we got some gaps that need to be filled. But I also believe we need to really reassess our posture and consider, is there better ways to work toward peace with these guys than the confrontations that we're looking at? I mean, in the long term, we have driven Russia and China together. The biggest long-term enemy of Russia will probably be China, because Siberia is wide open. China's got tons of people. They need space and resources. Siberia has that. They're going to want to take it, and the Russians know that. If we hadn't forced them together, Russia would probably be looking to ally with us. But quite frankly, I hope we reach a world where we could tap all these pressures down. I've got plans toward new type of communities and things that we could establish to take a lot of the pressure off, a lot of the pressure for resources and all these things that make people want to fight. But in the meantime, we do have to protect ourselves, and especially because we can't trust our politicians. We can't trust their politicians. We don't know where this thing is going. I tell you, you need to be able to prepare yourself. That's why you need to click the link below, look at My Patriot Supply and all the stuff they have to offer. That's why you need to watch my videos to learn how to prepare yourself to grow your own food. Because when your supplies run out, or when you got a bug out, take some of those seeds you can get off My Patriot Supply. But you are going to have to be able to grow your own food. And to grow your own food, you need to be able to practice it. You're not going to go out overnight and run a stick in the ground and throw seeds in and grow anything. It takes years to develop those capabilities. I'm going to throw a video on that too, a little bit more detail on that. You'll see that coming up in just a few days, maybe a day or two. But in any event, I've already shot the video, by the way. So this channel is about waking people up. That's what this video is, to wake you up that you need to prepare for yourself and your family. This world is not going to be business as usual. At least you can't count on it. I hope it is. I hope everything just keeps going and we can have a big, long, prosperous, millennial-long party. But we have a lot of threats to that dream. We have potential for conflict. We have potential for grand solar minimum, possibly other climate change. We have a potential for Yellowstone to go off. Economic failure with $22 trillion in debt. That's not a happy situation. And there are many, disease apocalypse. Ebola is on the verge of getting out of Africa if we're not careful. It's really spreading into populated areas. We're having a new outbreak of that. There are so many things that can knock us down. So you need to be ready just in case. You buy insurance, you pay a lot of money for insurance. Why not stop with food? Get as much as you can now. Maybe you got to do it over time. Start out with a week supply, 3-month supply, 6-month supply, and then just keep adding to it. Honestly, I would shoot for 7 to 10 year supply, because even if you do know how to grow stuff, you may have aerosols in the atmosphere from a volcanic eruption or a nuclear winter or some event that just won't even let you plant. So prepare. I do believe that the prepared person can survive if he's not at ground zero. So don't be scared, be prepared. You can survive. And that's the kind of things I'm here on this channel to show you. Go look at my videos on what you have to do, prepare to have fresh water, how you can forage out of the forest, how you can grow your own food, and how when there's no resources available, the commerce is shut down, the grid is down, you're not going to go buy fertilizer and pesticides. It ain't going to be there. Where do I grow a garden in, Greg? Hey, grow worms. That's your key. Earthworms. That is the key to making the supplies you need to grow your garden. And by the way, I sell earthworms. Greengregs.com. Links below for that too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you the best. Be prepared, not scared. Be sure to like my video, subscribe, and then click update notifications, because I got a whole bunch more good stuff coming. I'm going to be talking about the kind of threats we're facing, and we're going to analyze those to some degree. And I'm going to talk about, that's just to open your eyes. And then we're going to talk about how to get prepared so that you won't be scared. And I hope we all have a long, prosperous future.